I've spilled coffee on better people than you.
What the hell? You did that on purpose!
Of course I did. You're welcome.
You're insane! I'm reporting you!
She poured that coffee on purpose. She didn't spill it. She poured it right onto his lap, in front of everyone on that plane. And she smiled while she did it. The Atlanta airport was loud in the way airports always are. Announcements bleeding into each other, wheels dragging across tile, a kid somewhere crying, someone else laughing too hard at something on their phone. Nobody paid attention to anybody. That's what Caden thought as he walked through the terminal doors. Quiet, unhurried, a single backpack over one shoulder worn at the straps, dark jeans, a plain white tee that had seen better days, sneakers that were clean but not new. He didn't look left, didn't look right. He moved like someone who had nothing to prove. That's the thing about Caden, he never looked like what he was. He found his boarding gate, sat down in a corner seat, and pulled out nothing. No laptop, no AirPods, no status signal of any kind. Just a guy sitting still, watching the room the way someone watches a movie they've already seen. A woman 2 seats over glanced at him, then away, then back again with the kind of look that wasn't curious, it was measuring. Her name was Brianna, flight attendant, full uniform, posture so precise it looked rehearsed. She was talking to a colleague, but her eyes kept drifting toward Caden like he was something out of place, something that didn't belong in the frame. She leaned in toward the other attendant and said something low. Her colleague, a younger woman named Kylie, didn't respond, just looked at the floor. Boarding started. Caden was one of the last to get up. The plane was a standard domestic flight, 2x3 seating, full cabin, the kind of route where people eat chips and watch Netflix and don't talk to strangers. Caden settled into seat 24C. He put his backpack in the overhead bin, sat down, and looked out across the cabin like he was thinking about something far away. Brianna was working the aisle. She smiled at the man in 22A, called the woman in 23B sweetie, handed a kid in 25A a pair of wings because that's what flight attendants do for kids. And the mom smiled so wide you'd think she'd been given something real. She passed Caden without a word. Not even eye contact. He didn't react. A man across the aisle saw it happen. He raised his eyebrows just slightly, then looked back at his phone. Kylie came through a few minutes later with water. She noticed immediately, everyone had a bottle except the guy in 24C. She pulled one from her cart without hesitation and held it toward him. Here you go. Caden looked up. There was a pause, not awkward, just real. Like he wasn't used to small kindness and was registering it honestly. Thank you, he said. Kylie smiled. Let me know if you need anything. She kept moving, but she felt something. Some low, unresolved note. And she didn't know yet what to do with it. Somewhere over Tennessee, Brianna came back through with beverages. She handed a ginger ale to the man in 22A, a Sprite to the woman in 23B, a juice to the family in 25A. When she reached Caden, she tilted the tray. Not much, not dramatically, just enough. And the cup of coffee she'd been carrying slid forward and came down on his lap. Hot, fast, breading. Caden's jaw tightened slightly. That was the only sign. Brianna said, "Oops." One word. Flat. No follow-through. The man across the aisle looked over. Said nothing, but the corner of his mouth moved. Someone a few rows back snickered. Not loud. Just enough. Caden reached down and blotted his jeans with the thin napkin that had come with nothing. He didn't say a word. Didn't look up. Brianna was already moving on. But Kylie had seen it. She'd been standing at the rear galley, holding a stack of cups, and she'd watched the whole thing. The angle of the tray, the timing, the way Brianna's hand had moved. She set the cups down slowly. That wasn't an accident. She walked up the aisle to where Caden was sitting, crouched beside him. "I'm really sorry about that," she said quietly. "Can I get you something? Club soda? Anything?" Caden looked at her for a moment. "I'm fine. I want to help." "I know." A pause. "That's the difference." Kylie didn't fully understand what he meant, but it stayed with her. 30 minutes later, Brianna picked up the intercom. Nobody expected it. The cabin went quiet the way it does when something about an announcement sounds different from the routine ones. Brianna's voice came through smooth and practiced. Just a quick observation from your crew today. She paused like a comedian waiting for the room to settle. Sometimes people board a flight thinking it gives them a certain status. Like the altitude changes who they are. A few people laughed. We see it all the time. Most of the cabin didn't know who she was talking about. But some did. And the ones who did looked toward seat 24C. Caden was looking out the window. Not away. Not hiding. Just outside of it. Like the whole thing was weather. Like it would pass. Kylie was standing near the galley curtain. Her hand was on the fabric. Don't. She said it out loud. One word, toward Brianna, just loud enough. Brianna lowered the intercom. But as she walked past Caden's row, she leaned down. Close, quiet, like a secret, and said, "By the time we land, you'll know exactly where you stand." Caden turned from the window. He looked at her for the first time fully. Not angry, not wounded, just clear. "Sometimes what looks like nothing is everything," he said. "You'll understand that soon." Brianna straightened up, laughed once, short, dismissive. She walked to the back. The descent announcement came. Seat belts. Tray tables. The familiar mechanical language of arrival. Caden didn't move toward the overhead bin early. Didn't jostle for position. He waited until the aisle cleared, then stood, pulled his backpack down in one motion, and walked toward the front of the plane. Kylie was at the door. She looked at him as he passed. "Whatever just happened in there," she said. "I want you to know I didn't think it was right." Caden stopped. He looked at her directly. "You didn't just think it," he said. "You said it. Out loud. When it was easier not to." She shook her head. "I didn't say enough. You said it once." He paused. "That's more than most people manage." He stepped off the plane. The Atlanta jetway opened into a wide terminal corridor. Caden walked out, and 6 people were standing there waiting for him. Not family, not friends. Men and women in dark suits. Hands folded, eyes forward. And beside them, 2 senior executives from Skyspan Airlines. Lanyards visible, posture rigid. Faces carrying the particular tension of people who have prepared for a moment they didn't know how to prepare for. One of them stepped forward. Mr. Caden Rhys. The man's voice was careful, formal. He extended his hand. "Welcome back to Atlanta, sir. Everything's ready." The corridor was busy. People moved around them, but several stopped. Not because of the suits, because of something else. Something in the arrangement of it all. The way these people stood when he walked out. Brianna came through the door 10 seconds later. She saw it immediately. Her carry-on stopped rolling. Her face changed not quickly, but completely. The way ice doesn't look like it's cracking until it already has. She recognized one of the executives. Had seen him at company briefings. Had shaken his hand once at a staff event and smiled for a photo. He was the regional VP of operations for Skyspan Airlines. And he was bowing his head to the man in the coffee-stained jeans. Kylie came through the door behind her. She saw it too. She didn't move. Caden shook hands with the executives. He didn't perform it. Didn't make it a show. He just was. One of the men in suits leaned toward him and said something quietly. Caden nodded. Then he turned and looked back at the door. Brianna was standing frozen at the edge of the corridor. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned back to the executive team and said, simply, "Can you bring the full cabin crew out here?" Took 4 minutes. Brianna, Kylie, 2 other crew members who had been on that flight. They stood in a loose line in the corridor. Other travelers had slowed. Some stopped entirely. There's something about a reckoning that's impossible to look away from, even when you don't know what it is. Caden stood in front of them, backpack still on, coffee stains still on his jeans. He spoke quietly. 3 months ago, I started traveling incognito on our own routes. He paused. Not to catch anyone doing something wrong, just to understand what it actually felt like to be one of our passengers. What the experience really was. Whether the company I built still matched what I wanted it to be. Silence. Today, he said. I have my answer. His eyes moved to Brianna. She couldn't hold his gaze. She tried. She failed.